Welcome to Together We Rise, a special WMBD WYZZ town hall focusing on race relations in Central Illinois. I'm Eugene Daniel.
And I'm Shelby Roberts. We're going to come right out and say it. There are a lot of people right now that are feeling hurt, angry, and frustrated, some even confused about the treatment of black people in this country.
Many black Americans feel marginalized and silenced, and this special gives an opportunity to dive into the history behind that, why it impacts all of us, and where we go from here.
Tonight, an eye-opening conversation about race relations in Central Illinois. This is Together We Rise, a WMBD News Town Hall Special.
Is racism? I think that depends on who you ask.
Racism, that can be blacks against white, whites against black.
I think that racism is either intentional or unintentional stereotyping, prejudice, judgment against people of different races, ethnic backgrounds.
Even in 2020, these conversations still continue.
They definitely do, and we kick off tonight's town hall special by offering some context.
Racism is a system that's been put in place and perpetuated and continued against a certain sect of the community to keep them suppressed, oppressed, and depressed.
Central Illinois is not immune to the impacts of slavery, segregation, and discriminatory policies.
That's right. Coming on the heels of the progress from the civil rights movement, local black families still face substantial challenges to overcome.
When you look at this mirror that you could put up in 1970 and 2020 and still see some of the same social and economic dynamics, she said, I mean, it is heartbreaking.
As retired journalists Gary Moore and Pam Adams are no strangers to chronicling the layered history of Central Illinois.
In order to justify what happened to black people, to Native Americans, there's so much that had to be denied.
You stopping his breathing right there, bro.
I can't breathe. Okay, he's talking. It's
He's
hard to talk
talking.
when you...
The moment sparking a global movement, the death of George Floyd, an unarmed black man from Minnesota.
And then things changed. Peaceful protests during the day bled into the night where civil unrest exploded through several communities.
People are coming from a place of anger and hurt.
What are the right ways for people to protest when you're trying to get the attention of police? It's hard to have a conversation about police-community relations in Central Illinois and not talk about 5 police-involved deaths in Peoria since 2017.
How do you justify seeing those images and those situations, those series of events, and then saying, as you're saying, but still, my son, my brother, did not deserve to die in the way that it did?
They had a right to appear in court versus being sent to the morgue.
The coronavirus is hitting our nation very hard, but the pandemic is starting to magnify some of the health disparities facing minority populations.
So a public health crisis can be a variety of items, but it really looks at the data that we're seeing in terms of the health outcomes and disparities we see in a community.
It's race-based traumatic stress. And so what happens every time there's an infraction, we're insulted and we're injured. And depending on the magnitude and the perception in which people perceive it, that is how they will internalize it.
Now, when it comes to Black history in curriculums, this is something we hear a lot, Dr. Ali. What is it that we're missing here when it comes to not having those sometimes included?
Well, we need to have an integrated curriculum that includes Black history.
An online guide to allyship reads allies recognize that though they're not a member of the underinvested or oppressed communities, they support and make a concerted effort to better understand the struggle.
How can I be a better friend? How can I use my skills, talents, knowledge, and privilege to prevent harm and repair past harms? Because it's about being interconnected.
We now look to some of our young people right here in Central Illinois to guide the community in the right direction.
We've seen police brutality in Peoria, Illinois, so it only made sense that we had a protest and we also had a rally honoring those Peoria victims. And it doesn't stop with the protest.
Thank you so much for watching this Town Hall special.
Again, we know that these are not easy conversations to have, but we hope by having them, it can lead to positive change.
We just have to come together.
We have to look within ourselves and realize we're just as human as the next person.